I had felt left out, which is why I put on my readers, but they're starting to fog up, so
You're breathing too hot and heavy already.
that's
And we haven't even gotten into hackers, Jack.
I was thinking about Rocky Horror. Because I was thinking, like, what movies did I have to sneak to watch when I was a youth? And Rocky Horror Picture Show was one of them, because my mom put Tim Curry in the same boat as David Bowie, which she also was not a fan of. Any kind of like androgynous character, which like I guess is not, if you're gonna put two people in the same boat.
I mean, that's a really cool boat.
It's a pretty sweet boat.
It's like I want to be in that boat.
But I think Rocky Horror was the big one.
I'm trying to think. My mom was really permissive whenever it came to us watching things.
I did just re-listen to our last Guilty Pleasure episode.
I think we talked about that exact thing.
Yeah. Ace Ventura.
Yeah, it was
2.
Ace Ventura 2 was the one where like she let me buy the tape, and that was my consolation for having to return my copy of or my cassette copy of Green Day's Dookie, because she didn't like the lyrics of one of the songs. She actually listened to that episode and was like, I don't remember that. And I'm like, it's burned into my memory forever.
We need to have your mom on the show at some point.
She'd love that, I'm sure.
I feel like for me, it was like my dad had just had that knack of like, no matter what the movie is, he would just walk in the room and like, just the one like bad part of the film that lasted like 10 seconds. Like I remember watching Mighty Ducks and like he just like walks in and it's just like the part where like the Fuller brothers or whatever they're called are just like beating people up and he's like, oh, great movie. Yeah, okay. Just like walks out.
No,
I was like,
no,
it's
that's
Mighty
not. It's hockey. It's a Disney film.
It's about teamwork.
It's
okay.
just this one part. It's not all this. Having met your dad, I absolutely believe that is his superpower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had a moment like that. Well, only like that. It like that, and it was like, oh, this is what this movie is. Except I kind of brought it upon myself, where I tried to show my stepdad a scene from South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Oh no, you did bring that on yourself.
I absolutely brought it on myself. I was like, hey, check this out. He was like, this is what you're fucking watching, and that did not end well.
I mean, to be fair, that whole show is like that. So, I mean,
it's really, it's true.
The first time I saw that movie, it was heavily edited. It was on TV, but
so much would be cut out of that.
Yeah, but I ended up having sex with my girlfriend like while watching it.
Neat.
Like we were laying on the couch spooning, but I laughed because Saddam is hilarious. And she's like, "Did you just laugh?" And I'm like, yeah. But you're good too.
Oh, good Lord.
Wonderful. Hey, this is DeRazzled.
Yeah, welcome to DeRazzled.
Welcome to DeRazzled. We're doing a bit of a relaxed fit today, easing into the holidays / hour break.
Yeah. As we mentioned at the end of our last episode, we're gonna take a little break after this one before we pick up season 2 momentum again. But we thought the best way to do that would be to do two things. One, to give our special guest Scott and good friend Scott McGrath a fair shot in an episode that's not Kirk Cameron focused.
We do owe him an apology.
I'm glad you're apologizing because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be apologizing for that episode.
The person who owes all of us an apology is
Kirk
not
Cameron.
Going to be giving.
Yeah,
us
I
an
noticed
apology.
we haven't talked at all since that episode.
No, he hasn't reached out once. The fuck was that?
Don't worry about it.
Was that Kirk Cameron? Was that his apology? Because it's just about as good as apology as the movie, let's be honest.
I hated it.
You know what? I'll accept this haunting as apology. We're good. But also, we thought best way to go into the holidays was to take another crack at some of our favorite guilty pleasure films. Y'all seemed to get a kick out of that the last time we did it, so we decided to give it another go.
Yeah, that's one of our better listened to episodes.
It is
right?
hands down our most popular
What's
episode.
wrong with you people? Like, I will say I did re-listen to it today, and for the longest time, I believe that was the episode that I personally hated the most. Because I remembered it as the episode that I talked about my religious trauma. But since that time, I've talked about so much worse.
You've talked about so much worse since then. Yeah, you got deep into some religious trauma in that episode, but then we got into a bunch of shit about your dad and the Mommy Dearest episode,
which is also an episode that did really well.
Yeah,
what's wrong with you
it's
people?
the ones where you torture yourself the most that people seem to
Fascinating.
like the most.
We were talking, or I was talking to some of our fellow podcasters today, and they're like, "So, like, what episodes do well?" And I was like, I'm not answering that on this Facebook group. the ones where I'm suffering.
You're funny to that old like stand-up comedian bit where like once you pour your heart out once on stage and everyone loves it, you just that becomes your shtick and you have to. So can't wait to see what we get into, Jack.
Well, this episode's going to be terrible because
this episode, if that's the maximum, then this episode's going to do very poorly because Jack chose the polar opposite of.
Yeah. Okay. So last time we did this, it was with Michael Elliott.
Yes.
That's
why it did so well. People thought you could see people in a podcast. You can't.
He is
a lot of disappointed people.
Beautiful man.
He chose Waterworld.
Yes.
You chose the fucking cable guy.
I chose the cable guy, yes.
And I chose 2003's Daredevil.
You sure did.
And hated myself.
And you hated yourself so hard that you changed your opinion on the movie.
I did.
Which is buck wild.
Before I chose this movie, I made sure to rewatch a couple clips to make sure I did still enjoy it, which I did. We're safe. I feel good about my choice. So I guess now might be a good time to introduce our guest formally.
I mean, we've introduced Scott.
Yeah, but like we didn't say what he does.
Scott, tell the fine folks what you do.
Well, you see, I waited 364 days to be back on this podcast, so not a whole lot since then. But here I am, ready to live and just cherish the moment with you all again.
I'm still amazed you've been able to make a career of that. It's just
sitting in a chair.
Yep. I mean, give the people what they want, and that's me once a year to an episode that will be skipped.
It will say something if this episode bombs really hard.
Oh my god!
But the other one people loved. I'm blaming on you.
Let's just cherish the moment, and we'll see it again in 364 days. And other than that, we've worked on some films together. We have quite a few memories of that. I'm sure we will. There we go. If we need to get into deep shit tonight, we can just. We can just really call back some of our shared trauma.
I was like, I don't think any of our movies are going to be quite traumatizing.
Just
but then
talk about the production cycle for American Curse.
Oh my god. So my movie had like
wash cycle.
Fantastic. We did it. That's Scott. Let's talk about what movies we picked.
Yes. Scott, you go ahead and go first there.
Yeah, so I've picked Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas.
Fuck! You got us.
Thanks for coming.
Just waited till we were trapped here.
Kicking you off the stream.
I understand there's a rule against that now, so instead I've opted for 1995's Hackers. A masterpiece if I've ever seen one.
Yep.
So I had not seen this before, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, my only interaction with it, I think I saw specifically. So of the 2 times I've interacted with the movie, I've watched it as a whole.
Okay.
So the first time I saw the climax, but this time that I saw it, I fell asleep during the climax.
Oh no!
So I've watched the whole movie.
The whole movie there.
Had either of you heard of the movie before?
I had heard of the movie. I knew Matthew Lillard was in it, and I knew about the Hack the World thing. Like I'd heard people shout "Hack the World" before.
Hack the planet, Joe.
You see, I fucked it up already. Well, I'll see y'all later.
Bring it in, Kirk.
Was aware that young Angelina Jolie was in it, and
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's one of those films that like you're like, oh, I've never heard of that, and then you look at the cast list, and you're like, what the actual fuck?
What I'm really upset about is that nobody warned me about skateboarding smoke show Fisher Stevens.
We can't skip straight to the good part, Joe. Holy shit.
Fair.
Scott, how did you first interact with? Is it 95?
95, yes.
1995's Hackers. It shows. It's very 1995.
Yeah, so I guess let me set the scene. Junior year of high school. I managed to get one of those, like, just cliche, like, independent study classes for, like, communications media or whatever, which just means there's, like, a little room attached to the English room, but separated with windows, where they would do, like, you know, the morning broadcast kind of stuff, and also film some other things. I don't know. I still don't know because I never did a fucking thing in that room. But, you know, you knew, like, the right teacher, and I got this independent study class, and that's what I did 3 days a week in that class, is we would go to this room, and there was a computer. So that's what I did, is I wasn't even really into film or TV or anything at that point, but I was into computers, and there was one. So I entertained myself. And there wasn't any supervision or anything like that. So, like, I just watched movies and played World of Warcraft. And so anyway, I don't know how I got introduced to hackers. I think I was into, you know, getting into computers. I was into kind of that cybersecurity hacker fetish kind of thing. So I probably, like, saw it on a forum or, you know, something, and pirated it. And I feel like if you needed a snapshot of me in 2005 or whatever this was, it'd be like me pirating a hacky movie and watching it alone in a room.
Fantastic.
But that's what happened. I watched it first in that classroom and was just really, you know, enjoying myself, both ironically and unironically at the same time. And yeah, I think I probably watched that movie like 12 times that year just in that room, because it's great and I could.
I love it.
But yeah, I think it's just a real, like, snapshot in time of both my life and the internet age coming into its own and trying to be immortalized in the best way possible.
With just a lot of flying equations and
so many formulas.
That's what I liked the most about the movie, was we hadn't figured out how to visually show the internet yet.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have now. We just kind of don't do it that way for sure. And this is 4 years, I think 4 years before The Matrix.
Yes.
Which was like, let's just say we're in the internet. And that's good enough. But watching this reminded me of, I think it's The New Adventures of Johnny Quest.
Ooh, okay.
Because they had, I'm not going to go into the production history of it because there is quite a bit, but half of the show was made to be, what if Johnny Quest and his friend Haji, which is not problematic, and Race, his daughter Jessica, I've watched a lot of Johnny Quest, were internet fighting people, and they fought inside the internet.
I remember this show. I watched a lot of that show in that little Toonami block after school, along with Dragon Ball Z and whatever else. I think Sailor Moon was part of that as well.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a good deal of that.
But the internet was, we didn't figure it out. So it reminded me of this, and it reminded me of a video game for, I think, PlayStation 1 called Gex Enter the Gecko.
Oh, I love Gex.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, I miss it. And there was like a world where you're inside the computer fighting computer things, and you're jumping on different microchips, and numbers are flying everywhere. There's a lot of equations, just like Hackers.
Fantastic.
So I can name a bunch of movies that are like this, where it's like we tried to show the internet. I can't name a single one currently.
God.
They've learned that they don't try, really.
Just don't do it.
Yeah, like, there's no good way to do it, and certainly not in 1995, but
No.
Lord, they swung for it, and I
They
respect
really
them
did.
for it.
I mean, we're going to get to my movie in a little bit here, but it kind of tried a little bit to show the internet.
It tried. I'm sure there's a movie out there. If you are out there and listening and know a movie that accurately portrays the internet visually,
It's that episode of Futurama.
that wouldn't surprise me, honestly. Let's talk a little bit about the performance, because it's not a good movie. At least I don't think it's a good movie. I wouldn't say it's a good movie, but it does have an abundance of cheese. I mean, Matthew Lillard being in the movie at all brings his own quantity of cheese.
He is just serving up as much Gouda as he can possibly carry. And it makes me so happy.
He's just a walking Gouda Buddha. Just...
He is a little extra Matthew Lillard.
He's leaning into his own shit so hard, and I love it.
I mean, did he have like established cheese at that point?
I'm trying to think, is this pre or post SLC Punk?
I was also wondering that. Because it would have been, I think Scream is a couple years later.
It's like the next year, if I'm not mistaken. Or year or two, I
Something
forget.
Like that. But he's pretty Matthew Lillard-y in SLC Punk.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But how would you describe his wardrobe, Scott?
How would you? It's like they took the most important part of the 90s, which was wrapping like a flannel around your waist, and then they made that into a character into itself. They're just like, how many things can we attach or build from a wrapped flannel, and like suspenders and just all the way up to his braided hair. Like, I don't, the wardrobe is the painted nails. It's just
his little pince-nez, like nose bridge glasses that he's wearing.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I imagine that he lives in the back of a Goodwill, 1995 Goodwill, and has to get up and go to school every day because he's a teenager.
That's why he has to constantly ask to crash at other places.
Right. But they don't turn the lights on before he goes. So it's just him blindly running through a Goodwill from one end to the other.
Hand in the rack. Yeah.
Completely naked to start with, but by the end of it, he's dressed however that happened.
Whatever article of clothing stuck to whichever part of his body.
I assume that's where he got all those hacking manuals too, just browsing his shelves. Like, oh, the Unix Bible. Wonderful.
So, Scott, as somebody who is not, how you say, computer literate, this movie's very accurate, right?
Yes, 100% factual. In fact, this is a biopic about Matthew Lillard's character, not about Dade Murphy, who's a fictional character.
Yeah, no, Dade Murphy's more of like a framing narrative for Matthew Lillard.
You know, there are actually like a lot of things based on reality. Jack trying to retrain his camera to let it know that he has a face.
It's embarrassed by me, and I get it.
A lot of the details are based on real hacking trivia at that time. Really, I think in fact like the actors all went to like hacker meetups in New York and hung out with real hackers for like a couple weeks leading up to the film.
Huh.
So I mean,
hold on, don't say another word. I need to wrap my head around this.
Yeah, so that scene where there's like all the rollerbladers going around and there's the giant video game screen that's happening, that was actually just a meetup they happened to film.
Yeah, they were just flying the wall filming that part.
Like my vision of the writers writing hackers was them in chat rooms with other hackers and just like, yeah, let's add all this with like a little BDSM and some of the comic book shit that we read. I didn't actually expect them to have done any research.
I mean, they clearly did at least some.
Yeah, like all those hacking books, like the Rainbow Rainbow Bible that they're going through and stuff like those are all real books.
Is the giant, like, cartoonishly large red one real? Because that one felt like a gag.
Yeah, the pink one is real. I don't think it's like the actual title that they use, but it exists. Yes,
fantastic.
Yeah, I think and a lot of things were like, you know, just this is real, and then we took it from a 2 up to a 12.
Sure.
I don't think the Gibson was a real computer, but it was like based on a person who made a supercomputer. I don't know, some shit like that. So yeah, there's a surprisingly like large amount of factual tidbits in it, and like, you know, even like the kind of worm software that this that Mr. the Plague creates.
Yes, skateboarding smoke show
like,
Fisher Stevens. Yes,
that was a kind of classic worm scheme that ran through corporate America. I mean, if you've seen you've seen Office Space, it's essentially
I was just gonna say it's Superman 3, but yeah, it's
Right.
Office, which is also the one they reference in Office Space.
Yeah, that was the one part I'm like, didn't they reference this in Office Space, which was then referenced in Superman 3? I guess this must be a thing that happened.
Yep,
Enough that it made it into 3 separate movies.
sure did.
And I think the Dade's initial, when he was a kid and he got arrested for crashing like 1,500 computers or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
15,007.
Thank you. That was based on like a true event. I think it crashed like 1,600 computers on Wall Street or something like that. But I don't think it was like a 7-year-old or however fucking old he was supposed to be.
Good, fuck him.
I have a whole... Okay, so what we forgot to do that we did in the last episode, or the last Guilty Pleasure episode, was state how you and I, the people that are being forced to watch Hackers, how we felt about it going in. Or not going in, but going out. Prior to Scott convincing us that it's not horrible.
Oh, that's a fair point. Yeah.
So what's happening right now is my opinion's changing, which is why I want to stop.
So okay, yeah. Well,
State
so I already stated that I actually enjoyed this movie. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was pretty stupid.
it
was real fucking dumb.
I do recall you messaging us and saying, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And I'll be honest, at that point, because of the amount of time that had passed, I wasn't sure if you were talking about Gamer by that point.
Right. So we're doing this episode pretty quickly after we did our last series of Showgirl episodes.
Yes.
So it's like 4 days ago we recorded Showgirls.
Yep.
So we didn't have a whole lot of time to watch these and sit with them.
I watched them all in one night.
Watched them all. It was my entire day yesterday. I switched between this and Until Dawn, which is fantastic. So I haven't had a whole lot of time to sit with Hackers, but my opinion is that it's stupid. And there are some parts that are especially dumb in a way that are enjoyable. That's basically Matthew Lillard's entire career of the 2000s.
I mean, yeah, that's very true.
I love Matthew Lillard, but he is... How did you put him? Gouda Buddha?
Gouda Buddha. Yes.
He's a big old cheesy god. Not to say he can act.
He can act. He can absolutely act.
But that was one of the cheesiest performances I think I've seen him do.
I think the so many of the performances are extremely cheesy.
Yeah.
They're very over the top.
But like a lot of the side characters I did like.
Such as?
Oh, fuck. I don't know their names. But the one that takes Dada under his wing. Daddy?
Are you talking about Joey?
Dade?
Dade. Okay, sorry.
Whatever. Yeah. The one...
Freak.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I liked him.
Yeah. Oh, he was great. I thought he was a fantastic character. I loved watching him actually like freak the payphones.
That was really cool.
Because that's a thing you used to be able to actually do.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
If you knew, like, if you had the correct tones recorded, you could trick a touch tone phone into just doing shit that you couldn't otherwise do. Like, you could make long distance calls. You could use a payphone like for infinite time without paying for it. Like, it was a thing.
Okay.
Like, it used to be like an actual problem that people had to address.
And I love that when they set it as a character up initially, and you know they kind of like portray these hacker kids as like do-gooders who are kind of up to no good, you know, like they have a great heart and they're not going to use this for evil, obviously. And so like the very first time you see Freak is when Dade's walking through the hall of the high school lost. And, you know, as you do, in order to ask for help, you pick the one fucking person on a phone to ask for directions. But he's like, hang on, I'm talking to Argentina or whatever.
I think he said Venezuela.
Thank you.
Yeah. Which like they signal, like they let you know he's talking to somebody not in English with like the barest Spanish, just that real quick claro que sí.
But you know, it just like sets up that like, oh, he's used to hacking phones and getting free long distance so that he can presumably talk to like family members, you know. Not
absolutely,
like
I love that detail so much.
But of course, it's also it's easy to oversee, and also is you're too busy laughing at the fact that Dade's like, you on the phone.
Well, where's the principal's office?
Scott, if you would you summarize the plot of Hackers?
Yes. So, young computer prodigy gets arrested as a kid for hacking a bazillion computers at once and gets busted by the FBI. And his sentence is that he can't touch a computer or touch-tone phone until he's 18. And so he becomes 18 and, like a good boy, immediately connects his computer to the internet in order to hack a TV station so he can watch The Twilight Zone. Jack,
Outer Limits,
if you don't appreciate that, I mean...
It was Outer Limits, you're correct, Jack. I particularly love that he took down a fake Rush Limbaugh show titled America First, which prescient, in order to put on the Outer Limits.
That's a lovely detail I definitely probably missed as a kid.
Mwah. Beautiful.
Also, really highlighted and punctuated by his insult, "Get a job." Which...
oh god, yeah, that
just
immediately
about the most annoying voice you can muster from performance.
It immediately endeared me to the movie. Just,
but sorry, do go on.
So, in the midst of all this, his mother, single mother, has moved him to a new school. So he begins his senior year in a new school, tries to get in with a hottie super body, Angelina Jolie, for those keeping score.
What's her name? Burn Crasher?
Acid Burn.
Right.
Yeah. Burn Crash. No. Because at the end, they're crash and burn. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Because he can't be zero cool, because he would blow up his spot, so he chooses to be Crash Override.
You really picked up a lot of details in this movie.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by Joe's knowledge on this movie at this point. So in order to do that, he pulls off some hacking shenanigans at school to kind of get revenge for a prank she pulled on him. War ensues, and he falls in with some other hacker and hacker adjacent friendos at the school. And they're getting into a war, just a prank war with each other, hacking, because their kind of newbie script kiddie friend, Joey, you'll notice he doesn't have a hacker name yet.
No.
Hacks a Gibson, the world's most notorious secure supercomputer, and gets hunted by the FBI, so they start fucking with the FBI as a form of competition and also to get the man off their backs.
I quite enjoyed that part.
Poor Richard Gill. Just poor FBI agent Richard Gill going through absolute hell from a bunch of fucking teenage punks.
And from there, they get involved in this supervillain hacker, the Plague, has concocted this scheme to steal this money from the company he works for and escape. And they have unwittingly stolen part of the data that incriminates him. So he's doing all this to try to get them in jail and take the fall.
What else is he from?
Oh, he's from a bunch of shit. I could not. I have no idea what else, but I know he's been around for quite some time.
Fair.
And that's the movie. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
There are a couple of weird dream sequences.
Horny dream sequences.
This movie is, I think, the two things that you did a great job at summarizing.
Yes.
But the two things that the audience needs to know is, one, this is a very horny movie.
It is its own brand of horny, yes.
It definitely fits the teenage 90s we horny vibe.
And I want you to, if possible, describe the editing style, because it like you've described the movie, the plot, yes, but what is important is the editing. Really makes this an entirely different film.
You know, I'm just gonna say it. I think it's pretty great. At times, it's kind of brilliant.
It is certainly of its time.
The style is, it's very much of its time. They definitely swung for the fences there's a lot of flying formulas coming in and out. There's a lot of visualizations, which I guess aren't even CGI. They're like real motion control that they filmed.
That's
because
interesting.
they thought CGI would look too fake. That's what I thought.
To be fair, we do hear them at one. If I remember hearing correctly, they're like losing their shit over like a 28.8K modem.
I think, yeah, it puts you in a certain time for sure.
So when we started having the internet at my house as a kid, and we were cycling through the stack of AOL trial discs that we had grabbed from the food land,
yes.
we had a 56K modem, which at the time was like, man, this is really fast, and then DSL happened, so in reality, 56K was jack shit. It was absolutely nothing. It would take forever to download anything. It would take forever to even just log on to the internet sometimes.
Yeah, our first modem was a 28.8, so...
28.8 is half the speed of 56K. So it is...
You lost me like 6 minutes ago. I was thinking about how the acronym DSL means something different in my world. It means it's vile, and I feel terrible saying it. But it's dick sucking lips, which are very they're very large, plump lips. And when I learned this acronym, it was specifically in reference to Angelina Jolie. So it all ties back around.
I wish I knew what it actually meant in terms of like internet speeds.
I don't know what any of the words are that you've said, so I'm going to go back to where I was.
So Angelina Jolie is a modem. That's what we've learned today.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry, Mom.
There's a lot of dream sequences. I think the movie really hits its stride when you're just inundated with dream sequences, most of which, like you said, are horny, but there's the one where Dade has a dream sequence that they're about to bone, and then they get like busted by the FBI or something. And then Phreak has a dream that he's about to get like busted by the FBI. And then
I forgot
his
about
mom
that one.
Wakes him up, and the FBI come in through the window in what is like actually a surprising moment, I think. And
they fake you out there.
And Phreak goes, "Deja vu!"
Yeah.
I love that his mom just starts beating him upside the head while yelling in Spanish, and he's just like, "Come on, arrest me already!" God.
Yeah, just arrest me. Wow. I don't think we watched the same movie, Jack. I'm sorry.
I guess not.
So, Jack, what are your feelings on the movie now that you've heard Scott expound upon his feelings on it?
The key thing that Scott said that makes me feel a little different about it is that all of the hackery bullshit is somewhat legitimate.
There's some basis in reality
and
there.
not just funny words strung together.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all of the action is pretty hocus pocus movie stuff, but it's 95. I mean, who's gonna want to know about 28.8 BPS moments? I think one scene that we have to highlight that we've hinted at is the disc exchange scene.
Oh my god!
So I guess it's important to note that all of the good people in the film, the young hacker kids, are rollerbladers.
Yes,
I'm not sure why this distinction is made, but they're rollerbladers through and through. They rollerblade
think about this,
everywhere.
Yeah, you're right.
And there's a scene where Dade, fearing for his mom's safety, essentially decides to surrender the disc to the supervillain, the Plague. And so he calls from a payphone out on the streets of New York, and then waits on the curb with the disc extended as the Plague, holding onto the passenger side of a car on a skateboard.
A limousine. It's a limousine.
There were so many other ways you could have done that exchange.
Sketching a limousine.
Snatches the disc, latches back onto the limousine, and rides off into the night, the New York steam rising up behind him.
Fucking Fisher Stevens on the skateboard just snatching that little floppy disk.
And the music is so good.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Actually, speaking really quickly about the music, that was one thing that I found in its favor was the
house music soundtrack.
It was like vaguely trip hoppy, but more house.
Definitely more house, yeah.
But there was more than a couple songs I recognized, and I was like, nice, okay, I've made out to this.
Nice.
A couple of the other great things I'd like to point out, since you weren't paying attention, Jack. Number one, the hackers' handles, as they call them, are all just so 90s hacker handles are so great, and they're all apparently like, aside from the main character like Crash Override, but like all of Joey's like names that he's trialing and stuff like that, those are all like real 90s hacker handles.
Master of Disaster and Doctor Doom and everything.
Ultra Laser and stuff like all real. They're all beautiful in their own way.
I found them all very, very believable.
See, and there we are. I initially hated that, but now that I found out that they were real, I'm like, okay, I kind of like it.
Right. When you watch this in 2022, you're like, this is so fucking absurd. It was just the 90s, man. It was just the 90s.
That's the reality of it.
I love that one of Dade's first lines as an 18-year-old is to his mom as he storms off into the shower, and I'm still a virgin. And guess what? We see why soon enough. As soon as he talks,
my dude.
Yeah, as soon as he talks, and they're human, you're like, yeah, we know, we get it.
When he walks up behind Kate as she's like getting the new high score above her old high score, and he's like, pretty good for a girl.
Oh
and
my
it's like,
God.
shut up.
Yeah, that was pretty period.
What the fuck was that game?
I don't even know.
Wipeout. It's called Wipeout. Okay.
Oh, is it called Wipeout?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, just to go back to setting the scene and the kind of place I was at this moment, I think around this time I built my first computer and I named it Lucy in honor of Joey's confiscated computer.
Outstanding.
That he is obsessed with, named Lucy. I'm a little ashamed of that one, but that's okay. Some other favorite moments are when whatever techno dweeb at the company tries to alert the plague to something going wrong and calls him by his real name, and he's like, glares at him or something. Oh yeah, Eugene. He goes, and he's like, Mr. the Plague.
I love that it was Penn Jillette.
Yeah.
I love that guy was fucking Penn Jillette.
Oh yeah, the fuck.
What an unexpected cameo.
God,
but he didn't really play into his established personality. He was just like an actor.
Yeah.
Like if you had no knowledge of Penn from Penn and Teller, prior to that, you'd be like, oh, he's just an actor.
Yeah, basically. I mean, aside from the absurd jewelry he was wearing at the time,
that and his hair, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've done a good job, Scott, of summarizing this and putting up an argument for why this is perhaps not a bad film. Where I stand now after having heard your argument is I still think it's a terrible film.
It is.
But I think what we didn't do last time, Joe, is we didn't discuss good film, bad film, but also does it have that perfect mixture of ingredients and cheese to be a guilty pleasure film?
I think this does.
I think it does.
Yeah.
It doesn't cover perhaps words that I understand as a human being because I am so computer illiterate.
Like modem and keyboard.
I know what a
I'm sorry.
board key is.
Hey, until yesterday, Jack thought that a modem was dick sucking lips. So
that's true,
and I still do today.
He's had to explain some horrible things to Verizon over the years.
Yeah, he's had a lot of disappointing experiences with his modem at home.
They actually blocked me. Fuck. So no, I don't think it's a good movie, but I do think it's a guilty pleasure. It fits that very well.
Yes,
I think just in addition to the whole guilty pleasure thing, like the reason I think it's still not relevant, but it still has relevancy, I guess, is, a lot of the film is about this birthing of the internet and about who holds power in this like new emerging world. And there's a lot of like, he refers to them as the keyboard cowboys, and about how
he does use that phrase.
They're going to rule the world, essentially, and a lot of chauvinism that comes with it and stuff like that.
He's like just shy of referring to people as normies.
Yes. And I mean, God knows we're still seeing that today, every day, about, fuck me if they don't rule the world. And, right, they are white chauvinist pigs.
Yeah.
And they hold too much power, and it turns out the more we know about them, the less we like them.
Yep.
So, I think it's like they're hitting a little bit accidentally on what's about to unfold for the next 20, 30 years.
And beyond.
Who'd have thunk that 1995's Hackers was a harbinger of doom?
I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's probably a good place to take a break and then come back and discuss my movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Hell yeah.
I gotta pee real bad, so I'll be right back.
All right, we'll be back after Jack pees. All right, welcome back, everybody.
Now we're on to
my movie now.
Your movie.
So I picked.
You made this movie? Oh no, Joe.
Mistakes were made. So I picked 2009's Gamer, directed by Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, starring Gerard Butler, Michael C. Hall, Chris Ludacris Bridges. That's Ludacris's real name.
Ludacris?
Yes, Ludacris, his real name is Chris.
Wait, no, what did you say he did on it? Or just...
He's in it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said he had some kind of like creative control. I'm like,
what? No, I just said he's in it.
He directed it?
No,
weird. Nice.
I said directed by, and then you blacked out for 4 names.
You're not wrong.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
No, I liked my version better. Go on.
A Ludacris film. No, really.
If he ever does get into directing, that's what I want to see, like in the preview. Like,
it's gotta be
by Ludacris. No, seriously, guys.
Whatever happened to him?
He's still around. He's about to go on tour with Janet Jackson. Learned that today. Huh. Janet Jackson's going back on the road in 2023 and bringing out Ludacris as support.
That's ludicrous.
It's weird. It truly is. Oh, God.
Scott, what did you think of?
Yeah, let's talk about what you guys thought about the film coming out of it before I actually get into talking about it.
I was pretty surprised by this film. I said I was doing Hackers, you said you're doing this film, and I just looked at like the one-line synopsis, and I was like, oh, we got another nerdy-ass film up in this joint. Synopsis is like, I don't know, a gamer who games too much, tries to survive gaming or something like that.
That's a terrible synopsis.
It was not very accurate, and it was I was like, hopefully Jack picks something jockey, and you're like, no, gamers got that covered, and I was like, oh really? Huh, okay.
Yep.
So I'm glad you kind of warned me, because I would not have been prepared for the cold open.
That is the worst, basest warning I could have given you.
I was confused because I was vaguely aware of this movie. Mm-hmm. So I was confused when Scott was like, he picked something jockey, and I was like, more than gamer?
I was not familiar at all with this film.
Initially, I had picked Conan the Destroyer, which would have been incredibly jockey.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I turned it on, and my poor wife was having a really rough day, and she's had a migraine, and she was like half asleep on the couch next to me, and she was like, "Yeah, just watch wherever you want, because I'm gonna zone out, and I'm like, "Sure, gamer, let's kick it back." And holy, yeah, just explosions. Some guys teabagging someone in the first 20 seconds.
Fucking A.
My subwoofer is like trying to fly out the window from vibrating across the floor. The screen's just flashing constantly.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, if you've not watched this movie, just big ol' flashing light epilepsy warning right up front.
So she's dead now, right?
Yeah. Does one of you guys want to move in? I'm lonely.
Oh.
Another death by gamer.
So yeah, the opening, and there's just, man, they go for it. The camera motion is just very intense in your face, which the first 30 seconds, I'm like, oh shit, we're going for it. Okay, I like this. And then 50 seconds, and you're like, I need a break, please. Put it on a tripod. I'm begging you.
Those are rare words.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you're begging for sticks. Holy shit.
Yeah, not often uttered by me, but there you have it. So yeah, it was pretty jockey. I probably like halfway into the movie, I was like, I don't think I like this film. But I'm gonna make it through, goddammit. But I feel like it hit its stride the moment that Gerard Butler downed a bottle of alcohol and then both puked and then pissed it into the gas can of a car.
Sorry.
So that he could escape. And I was like, oh, I get this film now. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, I'm glad that was the moment.
It was like I had started watching a Hong Kong movie halfway through, and it was just like, oh, okay, this is where we are. All right. And from that point on, I think I enjoyed it a little bit more. Yeah. Overall, I wouldn't watch it again. If I didn't have to.
Fair.
But I'm glad that Chelsea could watch it for me. Yeah, Jack, what did you think?
Listen, we've watched a lot of bad movies,
Yep.
so I'm not gonna pretend like this hurt me real bad.
Sure. There's a huge butt coming.
But I did not enjoy this movie. I was pretty upset that you made me watch it. I was pretty upset that I finished Hackers and then watched this.
Oh,
I was really glad I saved my movie for last.
That's the right order, I think.
It would be the right order. I ended up closing my triple feature on Gamer.
It was the last time I watched it, yeah.
This is actually the first time I've watched this movie in about 10 years. So
I was confused why you picked this movie when it was finished, not before. Before I was like, oh yeah, there's like some like commentary on it, like social commentary, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But then there's like a lot of Dutch angles, and the camera was very upsetting. I too was upset by all of the camera stuff that happened in the camera movie. I wish it was an audiobook by the end.
I can't imagine
it'd be so short.
It'd be
10
real
minutes.
short.
Yeah.
It'd be real loud. And is Sam Kinison still alive? I'm pretty sure he
Yeah.
would be the one that reads it.
I hope all the sound effects are mouse sounds too. It's like bang 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 boom 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 bang 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 tumble tumble.
And that would be a good use of John Leguizamo.
Yes.
Because I was excited that he was in this, and then I was not excited anymore.
I completely forgot that he was in it. I forgot a lot about this movie in the 10 years since I'd last watched it. So I found this movie in grad school. I've mentioned a couple of times I have a master's degree in literature. My focus was in digital literacies and popular culture. And in my attempts to try and kind of like build up a knowledge base, I was trying to find media that would help, that would be, relevant to the stuff that I was reading, and I found out about Gamer. So I found that, and I was like, okay, the premise sounds kind of interesting, and I like Gerard Butler and Michael C. Hall. Let's give it a shot. And I will freely admit, this movie's fucking awful. This movie's
also, Michael C. Hall's fucking ripped.
Yeah. Like, holy shit, right?
I learned that. He's
Yeah.
a muscly boy.
Oh, like you expect it from Gerard Butler,
Right.
But like Michael C. Hall, man.
That nanite training program got him ripped.
Yeah, so I watched this movie and immediately was like, wow, this was a wild ride. It's a really bad movie, but like I'm weirdly taken with it, to the point that I watched it again in a room full of my colleagues in grad school as part of like a video game in media lecture series. and got into a really good conversation with like professors and other grad students about the whole thing. I was like, okay, that was really cool. That went better than I was expecting it to, which means, yes, I did subject some of my professors to all that weird, horrible sex shit.
I hated that so much.
So if you've not seen this movie, the basic premise is that there is a tech genius named Ken Castle who has developed these immersive games. One called Society, which is a rip-off of like Second Life and The Sims and whatnot, and one called Slayers, yeah, and one called Slayers, where a bunch of death row inmates are cede control of their bodies to professional gamers, more or less, and if they survive 30 like battle royale to the fight to the death matches, they win a pardon and their freedom. So he's achieved this by injecting some kind of new neurotransmitter cell into their brains, which then like slowly replaces the rest of their brain cells to basically make them walking receivers of sorts. Like they are people with IP addresses that can receive commands from an outside source. Gerard Butler plays a man who is known to the public as Cable, but is actually named John Tillman, who is wanted for murder. And Jack is so upset.
I'm very upset.
So he was arrested and put on death row for murder, so we think, and is trying to fight his way through in Slayers. He is controlled by a shitheel 17-year-old named Simon, played by Logan Lerman.
That's a great T-shirt, though.
His name is Simon. I just
his name is Simon.
That.
Yeah, his name was Simon.
Simon Says.
Yeah, that's true.
Joe.
I'm not drunk enough for this, honestly. So while he is trying to fight his way through Slayers, his wife has conscripted herself into Society, where somebody takes control of her to do Sims-like shit, except way fucking hornier and more gross.
And if you've seen people do Sims, that's impressive.
That's impressive. This is Second Life on crack. It comes to pass that Gerard Butler is helped out by a resistance organization known as Humans with a Z, which is run by Ludacris. So Gerard Butler gets out, is revealed through manipulation of his memories that he was forced by Michael C. Hall to kill another person who was in this trial of this brain bullshit. And while he was locked up and his wife in Society, Michael C. Hall's character has paid great sums of money to secretly adopt his daughter and hold her captive, which results in a big showdown final boss fight at Ken Castle's house that begins with an unhinged, chiaroscuro shaded dance and musical number featuring a lip sync of Sammy Davis Jr.'s "I'm Under Your Skin" or "I Got You Under My Skin."
I hate it. I was realizing,
love that
you
sequence.
can't see my face and how upset I am.
The way that Michael C. Hall commits to the weird puppet dance that he does in the shadows made me so happy.
I will say he did really commit to that.
He did really commit to it.
I hated it, but he committed.
Oh yeah, he was hauled in.
It's such good, like, final boss fight bullshit.
You also forgot the absolute rage machine that is
Terry Crews. Terry Crews plays
the opposite of who he is in real life.
The opposite, yeah. Known wholesome teddy bear that he actually is in real life plays murderous rage machine and actually pretty problematic character in general.
So the note I wrote about Terry Crews is Terry Crews to his agent. I feel like everyone just thinks I'm a nice guy. Agent. Noted.
Hold my beer.
I feel like you just. Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about snarling into a camera for like a minute and a half?
Just being the most unlikable thing that's graced a silver screen.
Yeah. So as I discovered earlier today, the critical reception of this movie is overall dog shit. Absolutely terrible. The vast majority of critics really hated it, with the exception of a select few. Most noteworthy.
What score does this movie have?
What's that?
What score does this movie have? Do you know?
So what score?
Like IMDb,
Rotten Tomatoes or
whatever. Jack, go ahead and look that up for me real quick. Because I want to mention this guy real quick because I'm not going to talk about his blog post / book chapter very thoroughly.
No fucking way. This movie has a 5.7 on IMDb?
It does have a 5.7 on IMDb. I think we did talk about that while we were recording.
We did, because it was...
Rotten Tomatoes, I believe, is more reflective of like the reality of this film, though I have not looked at it myself. But Steven Shaviro, who's an American academic, wrote a 10,000-word blog post defending this movie. He fucking loved this movie. And there are some things about his critique that do match with like what I really enjoyed about this movie. There's also a bunch of stuff in there that I disagree with, partially because it is like too overly laden with like academic theory, and he's leaning on a lot of kind of specious like Marxist theory arguments that I'm fine with, but I'm not entirely sure fit 100% well. There's a bunch of stuff that if you've not read Gilles Deleuze, you're not going to understand. And like I've barely read any of that since, and I certainly haven't in the last like 12 years.
Real quick, before you get into convincing me that this movie is not terrible,
okay.
Scott, did you look up the score on Rotten Tomatoes for Gamer?
No, just the IMDb.
Okay. Well, I looked up the score for Hackers on IMDb. 6.2 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Broke at 6.
Mm-hmm. However, on Rotten Tomatoes, Hackers has, for the tomato meter, 31%.
What is it?
Woo!
31.
Oh.
But
the audience score has got to be better, right?
The audience score is 68.
68? Wow.
Yeah.
Cult classic, baby!
There you go. Yeah. So
it's a big difference.
A lot of people named their computer Lucy, you know what I'm saying?
There you go. So hit me with what Gamers is before I continue on with what else I wanted to say about Steven Shaviro.
Give me a second. There's more than one movie called Gamer because it's very original name.
2009 one.
Not the 2001 or 2014 or 2011?
Nope. No.
I should also say I hated the name of this movie.
I actually know a couple things about that changed during the production.
I bet they couldn't figure out the fucking... so anyway, the tomato meter is 30. And the audience score is 39. This movie brought people together.
This did bring people together. That's beautiful. Interesting. I'm really curious to see if there's any kind of critical reappraisal that happens based on things that have happened in the very recent past. Anyway, the movie was originally titled Game.
Oh. Go.
It did briefly change. It did briefly change before it became Gamer. I want you to guess.
Game Over.
No.
That would be.
That would be pretty good, but no, it was not Game Over.
Was it Running Man 2?
No, even though that's clearly part of the DNA.
Is it Alcohol Puke Gas Tank?
God, if only.
Sell your best qualities. That's all I'm saying. What is it?
Citizen Game.
No! What the fuck?
I'm so mad. Fuck you so much. I'm so mad.
Oh, holy shit.
Who did that?
Oh,
I'm visiting you later.
Oh, that was very worth it. So, like I said, there are some things I disagree with Steven Shaviro with his gigantic fucking essay that he wrote about this. Though I am going to just straight up say the thing that I chiefly disagree with him is the idea that this is a good movie, because it's just not fucking. It's not good. It's a terrible fucking movie, but I like it, and here's why. Jack, Scott, you've played a lot of video games in your day, right?
To a degree.
Yeah. So what really helped rope me in with this movie is the way that it very clearly has a grasp on what was happening in AAA game design at the time, and to an extent today, in terms of, especially in terms of shooters, and especially in terms of, in 2009, gray and brown colored shooters with a bunch of waist high walls that would just be everywhere. and result in very monotonous gameplay overall. So think of your Gears of War, think of your Call of Duty, think of all of that kind of stuff. It played into the tropes of that nonsense very effectively. As you mentioned, somebody got teabagged literally like 20 seconds into the movie. That was the first signal for me of like, oh, this is not going to be serious. I should not go into this expecting like high drama, high art. They're going to make a lot of jokes relevant to, pop culture bullshit for today. That's fine. I'm ready for it now.
You teabagged him, but just to make sure you got it, he also said, I'm teabagging him.
He did say it. Yeah, he also said it just to make sure.
Like,
hey, if there are people watching that don't know the lingo, they just learned something.
Right. And now they can replicate it.
Yeah. Have fun at the next family reunion.
It's a weird reunion.
So, very, very weird reunion. So, Jack, you mentioned something to me, how you felt like this could have been a Verhoeven movie.
Yes.
And I very much agree, and I wish it had been, because it actually is doing almost the exact same thing that he's trying to do with Starship Troopers in terms of the cranking up the intensity and absurdity up to like 13. Except it goes further, I think, into the absurd and intense.
It goes so far around that it's back to being stupid again.
I would argue I think there's a solid argument for it going so far around that its head goes up its own ass. But I think, based on how big and how intense that it tries to go, that it's saying a lot more about the problems of game design as the game industry was running into them then, and predicting in a way the issues with big personalities in tech having massive control over the economic and cultural forces at play. Because Ken Castle is played up as this Bill Gates, like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk level figure in terms of how wealthy he is, how much influence he has, how much charisma he has, the following, what he's made, and the impact that that's had on the cultural conversation. It's hinted at that he has done this in a way that has given him such cachet with the U.S. government and through his economic impacts that he can basically do whatever the fuck he wants. It's practically what every billionaire in the United States wants. Well, up until Elon Musk tanked his entire reputation, has aimed for. It's what Mark Zuckerberg has been trying to build and insists that is possible, like with all this bullshit with the metaverse. It is a cartoonish display of that kind of greed in order to assert control. And that is ultimately what Ken Castle's trying to do, is control. Because, as it's revealed at the end of the movie, he's altered his own brain with these nanites as well, but he's the only one that can send.
Here's what it feels like to me.
Yes.
A producer bought the movie rights to a beloved science fiction novel that analyzes society and where it's going, and then handed it to Michael Bay.
It's interesting that you should say that. So
I hate it when you say that sometimes.
So if I'm not
Citizen Game me again.
No, I'm not going to Citizen Game you again, though I will savor that reaction for the rest of my life. This was not based on a pre-existing property. So these directors, Neville Dean and Taylor, they were previously best known for doing the Crank movies with Jason Statham. The ones where the ones where he has to where he has to keep his heart rate up to a certain level or he'll fucking die.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, which is just big stupid action.
I'm not going to throw anything because I have a bunch of shit in this room I like, but
like I'm watching this movie and I'm like, you know what would have been a better actor for this? Jason Statham.
But it's interesting that you brought up the Michael Bay comparison, because the academic guy I mentioned makes that same comparison, but he fucking hates Michael Bay. Like, he goes out of his way to like shit on Transformers and all sorts of other shit in this essay. But the point that he makes that I found that was really interesting was that Neville Dean and Taylor in this movie are taking Michael Bay's shtick to like its logical extreme in order to present something satirical.
I I hear you. I agree. It's like the problem of you take the parody so far that you become the monster that you're trying to parody.
And that is why I think it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% there. That's why I think it fails in that satire, because it does, I think, go too far over the top. And I think it's moments like the just uncritical presentation of Terry Crews's character. I think
there's a lot of fat phobia shit in
yes,
it too, which
that
I
is
fucking hate.
precisely what I was just going to get
shit.
into. Yeah, the unnecessary fat phobia that takes place in the society portions of the game, where you see that Tillman's wife is being controlled by a very large man who is confined to a wheelchair, and he's presented as this gross, sweaty, like sticky guy who's like just dipping waffles into a bowl of syrup.
Honestly,
I'm pretty sure it's
great
the
idea.
Same...
Yeah, no, that's just gonna get you more syrup. That's smart.
I'm pretty sure it's the same like image. I just CGI'd it from like the gluttony death in 7.
I was thinking that as well.
You know, it does kind of feel like it does feel very similar to that. Especially now watching this, like I saw that part and I apparently just completely repressed that from my memory from the last time I watched it. Because I watched it this time, I'm like, holy fuck! Like Darren Aronofsky watched this whenever it came out and was like, you know, I have an idea for something that hates fat people.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that portrayal was it was pretty rough.
It was needless. Like they did not need to do that.
It didn't add anything at all.
Yeah. It really didn't. Like it didn't. Like, if anything, I think it took away from the critique that they were trying to make.
Yeah.
Like
Definitely.
it's that jarring, it's that fat phobic, it's that disgusting. But
Yeah. It's like I don't exactly like it. The whole thing is like, oh well, you know, instead of saying how this is like inevitable and that you know this is going to become commonplace, it's like, yeah, you know who enjoys this? Fat people who can't even move. I mean,
yep, yeah. That part of the movie, I absolutely detest. That did not need to be there.
It's also they go back to it like 4 times.
They do,
Yeah.
They
They
keep
really-
circling back to it. Like you could have made the point without any of the fat phobia, because like the whole point is like the lecherousness. It's the gaze of like putting this person through all this weird nonsense because you can.
I also thought it was interesting the different like gender identities being played with.
Yeah.
Like that was interesting to me. They didn't need to make it about something else entirely.
You know what I think would have made this a much better movie?
Different directors.
Well, different directors. Yes, I think Paul Verhoeven should have directed this. But I think the movie should have been told from Tillman's wife's perspective.
I would read the book. I don't know that I watched the movie version of that.
Because I think her story is the much more compelling one, right? Like she's the one who's left in the aftermath of everything that was done to her husband. Like she's the one who has to try to find a way through this world. She's the one who's actually actively dealing with the loss of their daughter and trying to fight to get her back. Like we get that one scene with her not stuck in society. Right. Up until she gets rescued by Tillman. And it's her going to a social worker and attempting to fight to get their daughter back. And it's noteworthy. One of the very few exchanges in the movie that's on sticks and follows like basic conversational film conventions. But she's just laughed at. It's an incredible world building moment. It's a really good way to highlight her plight and like the pain she's experiencing. But I don't think we really get enough of her as a person beyond that. You know?
Let's see if our opinions have changed.
Okay, yeah.
Scott?
I don't know. I feel like Joe convinced me more that it's a bad movie. I think if the circumstances were different, if this wasn't the last movie I watched, and also I had spent like 6 hours at the hospital that day, and it was maybe not the right choice to like finish the day with. Maybe if it was like Saturday evening, and I was with a couple broskies having a couple brewskis, and we're like, this is a really dumb movie. Ready to get into this? Sure. And then we can discuss it after, like that. I would be like, at least a more enjoyable film. Has my opinion changed? No. There are some parts fair. There are some, like I said, the second half I enjoyed more. I enjoyed like the twist of the kid getting to talk to him, and I thought there were just so many things that like I thought were gonna go places and that add some interest to it, like the kid getting to talk to him, like his wife being part of the society and him meeting up with her later, but they're really just like pawns for the rails of the video game that you're in. I think the best part of the film for me was at the very end. Mr. Tillman shanks the shit out of Dexter, and then they're like, "So like, free us?" And the guy's just like, the guy just says,
"Yeah, I did like that part."
"Pardon?" And he's like, "Free us?" And then he just goes, "Well played, Cable."
Beep. Yeah.
What?
Yep, that's it.
So yeah, there were moments where I thought it was gonna try to draw me back in. I was like, I'm ready for it. Please give me something here. And it was like, you got Dexter dancing. That's it. Sorry. All right.
Fair. Jack?
Yeah.
I think I like it even less now.
All right.
You I really disliked it, but I didn't hate it. And then you told me what it was originally titled. And then you told me what they briefly thought of titling it. And I don't like to be that petty person where I'm like, this one thing just sinks the entire... But I fucking hate that so much.
Oh,
human,
God.
Jack. We're all just human.
I'm so mad.
Well...
But if I delete that moment of existing from my memory, which I can't, but I wish I could.
Okay, let's pretend for a minute.
Let's pretend for a second that we're just going to remove that memory. I would still hate it more.
Okay.
It reminds me a lot of watching the live action Aeon Flux, which if you didn't see it, don't. It has a lot of great ideas that they don't go into because they're like, oh, let's focus on the action-y bits. But I'm like, no, this world that you're creating with all these details, like that's the interesting stuff for me. Like the world within Citizen Game is way more interesting to me than the actual story. I wanted to see more interaction between Douchebag Kid and him.
Yeah.
Like I think that there's a lot of tension between those two characters.
I agree. I think that's another failing for sure. From the moment that Simon is able to actually communicate with him, they kind of cue it up like there's going to be a deeper understanding built between them, and you really kind of get railroaded out of it.
And then they take him out of it. Take him out of the main story. They're like, we just arrested him.
Yeah. And the decision to like set Tillman free by the kid was like, it was so played down and so sudden. We're just like, so you gotta set him free, you know what I'm saying? He's just like,
yeah.
Okay. See you next film. Bye.
Like, but it was Ludacris.
Fair. If Ludacris asked me to do anything, I'd probably do it. But yeah, it was like you're saying, it was like such a hint of like something interesting, and then they just like dropped it in front of your face and then like laughed at the broken egg yolk on the floor.
Yeah. So so Jack, you hate it more.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Honestly, I think after having talked through it, I like it less. There's still, I still think that there are some interesting ideas that are there. There's a very interesting world that they could have explored more thoroughly, but they didn't. With hindsight and with talking through it with some people who aren't in my grad school program 10 years ago, yeah, I think it's too many drop balls.
There were a lot of teabagging
What is
in
this?
this.
New Year's?
Here's what I want to happen with this movie. I want friend Steve Luciano to take this movie, take the world of it, write a better novel. He can call it Citizen Game.
You let Steve call it Citizen
I would
Game.
let Steve call it Citizen Game.
Okay.
And I would read, yeah, no one else can, but Steve will. And then I would read that book and forget this movie ever happened, but I'd be really interested in the world that's built and what it has to say about our own.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that I think that would make me hate it less.
And then we would make a movie based on the book that he wrote.
Now we're talking. There we go.
Fully ignoring that Gamer ever existed. We will not acknowledge that the book is based on a movie that's based on a probably drunken conversation.
We could go into production, and then we would hate ourselves again, and the process would just continue.
That sounds about right.
Filmmaking, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right.
More after this break. Hey, welcome back. We're gonna jump right back in to my movie.
Yes, Jack, what did you pick?
I picked 1995. Four's The Flintstones. Starring John Goodman, Elizabeth Perkins. Who else do we got? We got Rick Moranis, Rosie O'Donnell, Kyle MacLachlan,
Halle
Berry. And this apparently is a big deal. It didn't mean anything to me, but Elizabeth Taylor plays Wilma's mom.
That is Elizabeth Taylor, yeah.
Which I guess she was in retirement.
Yeah.
And then they brought her back for this movie.
For Flintstones.
Yeah. And then she didn't do another one after that.
Nope. That is her last film.
God, I don't even remember where I saw. I think it was probably like on TV somewhere as a kid. Mm-hmm. I remember the McDonald's tie-in toys. Where did you first experience the Flintstones movie?
I was a Flintstones fan as a kid. Like I watched any cartoon I could practically get my hands on as a kid, and Flintstones was a classic. So I enjoyed it pretty thoroughly. When they announced the film, I wanted to go see it. I'm pretty sure I did get my parents to take me to go see it in theaters, if I remember correctly. I remember enjoying it then. It was fun. It was a good time. I probably had some of those Happy Meal toys. I don't know. It was a good time. Felt good to go back to.
How about you, Scott?
I definitely have less experience. I had seen the cartoon sporadically as a kid, but didn't really know it that well, and hadn't seen the movie the whole way through. Just one of those things that I caught bits of on some friend's TV over the years. So I hadn't watched it all the way through before. And now I have.
I actually wasn't a huge fan of the cartoon growing up.
Really?
Yeah, it didn't catch me.
Were you a Jetsons boy?
Even less so.
Okay.
Yeah.
that makes more sense, actually.
Which is weird because I love science fiction stuff, but I thought George Jetson was just a huge douchebag.
Yeah, kind of.
I did like Dino.
Dino's great. Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about the Flintstones growing up, and we've definitely talked about this before, was the bubblegum machine in my local mall.
We have talked about this, yes.
That you put a quarter in, and then a 3D sculpt of Fred Flintstone would circle around the middle and scream yabba dabba doo over and over and over again until a quote unquote dinosaur egg popped out.
Yep.
And it was only later did I realize it was all the shit that the other bubblegum machines had left over. They just threw it in an Easter egg.
Oh yeah. That's 100% what it was.
Loved it. I want to hunt this down and have it in my house. I'll put my medication in it.
Oh my god, that'd be the best med dispenser.
Prozac again.
Come on, Wellbutrin.
Well, out of quarters. No medication today. And I really wasn't excited about the movie either. It was on TV and I watched it. And, yeah. And it was one of those movies. I'm by the time I rewatched it again, and I think I just graduated undergrad. I'm certainly this is not aged well, but gosh, it was so I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I'm glad that I still enjoy it because last year's choice was fucking Daredevil, and I had regrets.
I'm glad that you had a happier experience this time.
Yeah, and I even thought so I saved this movie for last. I think it started at 11 p.m. and I thought I'm probably even if I do enjoy it, I'm probably gonna be like too tired to like laugh along. But nope, laughed like a fucking idiot at every single rock pun.
Which is amazing because you fucking hate
I hate puns.
You hate puns.
Scott, what was your feel?
You know, I wasn't very excited to watch this because I didn't really have a connection to the source material nostalgically. And the fact that you were picking as your guilty pleasure after saying that Conan the Barbarian or Conan to destroy whichever one. Yeah. You're like, that's not guilty enough. I choose the Flintstones as a 5 on IMDb. I was like, yeah, sure, this is gonna be great. But I enjoyed this way more than I thought I was going to. You know, the thing that pissed me off about the critical response to this movie, because I was expecting so much worse, and I enjoyed this movie so much that I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes and was appalled by the scores. And
what is the Rotten Tomatoes?
Tomato meter. Okay, you have to guess. That's how we do it here, right?
Right.
You got us. You got us there.
Jack, give me the tomato score.
I haven't looked at the score, but I did read the actual reviews, which are atrocious.
Ugh.
So I'm gonna guess probably like 27. Like they fucking hated this movie.
I'm gonna guess 35.
21 tomato meter.
Oh God, 21.
And the audio and score not much better. 24.
What?
Wow!
Holy shit!
But what's
you hate fun?
What's worse than that is here's the critical consensus. The Flintstones waste beloved source material and imaginative production design on a tepid script that plunks Bedrock's favorite family into a cynical story awash with lame puns. I'm sorry, if you described a film to me as it's a very cynical story and has a lot of puns, I'd be like, that's a good fucking film. That's a formula right there, baby. And that's what I got, and I liked it.
I see I'm going to have a really hard time convincing you guys that this is a good movie.
Hey, you got your work cut out for you, bud.
Good luck.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So let me try to summarize this film. So it's a live action remake of a, I think, 60s cartoon, I want to say, which was itself kind of a remake of the Honeymooners?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely got that DNA in it.
In which Fred and Barney work at the rock crunchy place.
Slate Rock Quarry.
Yes.
Rock Crunchers are us. No, you got it in one.
So Fred gives Barney some money so that they can adopt a child.
Yes.
Which turns out to be Bam Bam.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of pay Fred back, Barney switches their tests.
The aptitude test to become an executive.
What Barney did not take into consideration was that the lowest scoring test was that person was going to get fired.
To be fair, no one ever said that.
No.
It was just kind of announced out of the blue.
Yeah, so Fred, who is not aware of what Barney has done, is made to fire Barney. Barney and Betty then move in with the Flintstones. Tension grows as Fred and Wilma start to live into that nouveau riche lifestyle until Fred is forced to fire all of the workers because Kyle MacLachlan, what's his punny name?
It was Vander Cave or something like that.
Yeah,
I forget his first name.
And Secretary Sharon Stone.
Yeah. Just God damn it.
Yeah. Who was supposed to be played by Sharon Stone.
Was she actually?
Yeah, she had scheduling conflict.
That would have been even better.
Yeah. They're basically embezzling money from the company and they pin it on Fred.
Oh, yeah.
Fred, being an idiot, falls right into the trap. But luckily, cartoon hijinks ensue, and they're able to, cook Kyle MacLachlan alive with concrete.
Yeah, they encase him in concrete accidentally. Yeah. They pull an accidental Medusa.
Yeah, and friendship saves the day. But no, I didn't care about the plot as a kid, and I don't care as an adult.
It's very like paint by numbers. It's very easy. It's very thin. It's fine. It's a kid's. It's the epitome of a kid's movie.
But Roger and Ebert specifically hated the movie because they said the plot is too adult for children.
What?
Extramarital issues,
embezzling
issues, embezzlement.
Good children's media has shit in there for the parents.
And my reaction was, but what about the Addams Family movie, which came out around the same time? Also had, and then I read like the review right underneath that one. It was like, much like the Addams Family. And I was like, oh.
Good
okay.
Lord. Children aren't as fucking dumb as you think.
No, I was like, bad businessman do mean things to Fred. Fred's stupid, don't realize it.
Yeah, that's all the kid needs to know. The kid doesn't. Like, kids don't need to understand that he's like manipulating an entire industry to bring to reap his own benefits in a fraudulent manner. They don't need to know that. Just businessman bad, Fred good. Bad man do bad to Fred.
And if we're being entirely honest, adult Jack pretty much took away the same thing. Like, I don't understand.
I'm pretty sure that's how I heard you describing this, just as you were practicing in the other room.
Right. It's like embezzlement.
Yeah,
wait, is that where
it's pretty opaque and flimsy.
Rock no go, Fred upset sad.
What was the plot from Hackers where they steal a little bit of money? It's the same thing, right? It's the Office Space, Superman.
No. See,
if this were the same scheme.
No, if this were the same thing, there would have been a literal worm that was actually doing the collection of the money. Yeah, it's a crime.
Yeah, I mean it has what every good kids movie should has. Like, it's dumb and entertaining for children, while 85% of the writing is actually for adults, so when they watch it for the 26,000th time, they can still not hate themselves.
Exactly. Like the beauty of the moment where they're about to be lynched.
Please, those are words I'm definitely not gonna separate later.
I mean, because there comes a point where like Fred gets blamed for all of the shit that's happened to the workers at Slate. They find him. After everyone has left him because of his new hoity-toity attitude about shit. They are going to hang him, and then Barney pulls up driving an ice cream truck.
Oh my god, yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, and then like is pissed off about Fred and is like, no, he used to be my friend. I wish I'd never done this for him, never put him in this position. Yeah. And they were like, you know what? We almost made a terrible mistake. Lynch him too. They get another noose.
And then people keep coming by and they're like, you got any lemon?
You got any lemon? Check the back. Like, I took a cherry. I can't break a 20.
Can't break a 20. Just so deadpan.
The just straightforward delivery that Rick Moranis gives in that moment is so fucking great. Like,
you know what? We dodged a bullet. And we have Danny DeVito to thank. So Danny DeVito was up for the role of Barney.
I do remember hearing this at some point.
Danny DeVito was straight up like, "Nah, I'm Danny DeVito. They want me as Barney." and supposedly recommended Rick Moranis.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which, like, I love Danny DeVito, but he would have been an awful Barney.
Oh man, I couldn't see that working.
Yeah, so much heart missing. Oh, sorry, Danny. No offense. Yeah, that's the thing is, like, if the premise of the movie, if you pitch just any movie, if you just pitch me, hey, it's a John Goodman, Rick Moranis buddy film, I'm in, baby.
Sold. I'm
in.
Absolutely sold on that alone. Like,
what's the source material? I don't care.
Yeah.
Take my check.
Oddly, The Honeymooners.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. That each of the cast members and the set builders, the costume, everyone committed to the bit.
Yes.
100%.
And they really went for like authenticity in terms of like what it would be like to adapt that cartoon style into live action, like to the building structures and like aesthetics, to all of the animals being used as appliances and tools. Like, it's
they they do the Twinkle Toes bit.
They do the Twinkle Toes bit.
He clicks his heels and then freezes midair.
I love that they did like the first time I saw them do that, it was like, oh yeah, they did go and do that bit. Okay. And I was like, okay, like I appreciate it. It's like not visually my favorite thing, but like, you know, it's fun. But the fact that they went back and they did it again later and then he like pauses in midair,
right,
like, hey, wait a minute, and has this contemplative like moment of growth and like, yes, that rules.
It's definitely in the movie that like I'm dreading them remaking this in 2023.
Oh my God.
Because they're gonna it's so the way they do it is so perfect, and now they're just like, hey, we have CGI, we can do whatever the fuck we want. It's gonna look so bad, it's gonna feel so bad. It's gonna
So a couple of factoids. The CGI did look like shit in this, but it was 1994 and it was ILM who did it.
But like,
it wasn't ILM.
It was
really?
ILM, so it wasn't gonna look better at that
no,
time.
Probably
but
not.
like instead of 98% of the film being CGI, 98% of the film is just set design and like practical effects and
puppets.
It's Henson.
Henson.
was given.
It feels like a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That's what I want out of something like
Yes,
this.
absolutely.
So I was trying to think why I like this movie. Besides, it's fun.
Yeah.
And in my head, the Flintstones movie lives in the same space as the Addams Family, as like Edward Scissorhands, as any of these cartoony worlds that everyone involved commits to the bit, and it's its own world. Like I can envision living in this. I could like walk onto set. I mean, I couldn't because they immediately tore it down for some reason. But
that's a mistake. They should have preserved some of this for posterity.
It
I want to walk through.
so cool.
I want to walk through Bedrock.
They built the whole city. It was something like 10% of the budget went to building Bedrock.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all. Yeah, that's a big job.
Yeah. That like I remember being a little kid and watching these movies, and that being a big part of why I wanted to become an actor, not because I wanted to like pretend in the stories, but I wanted to hang out on these particular sets.
Yeah, just experience like that, like the immersion of those worlds.
And only to like later figure out like, oh, what I actually want to do is write and create these worlds, which as an actor you don't have as much control over. You want to like write and direct it. And I think that's why I like these inherently cheesy films.
Yeah.
I mean, the Addams Family plot is not super dense either.
No.
I do like the Addams Family probably a little bit more because it's more my style.
Oh, same. Yeah. I mean, plus, it's such an iconic performance from Raul Julia.
Yeah.
That it's hard to top that kind of thing.
But you also have a ridiculously accurate performance from John Goodman.
Yeah, no, he's an amazing Fred Flintstone. And arguably, Rick Moranis is possibly an even more accurate Barney Rubble, like down to the voice that he puts on. It's like almost cartoon accurate, as far as I can remember anyway.
He's pretty accurate. There was a lot of shit for casting Rosie O'Donnell for Betty, which like... If you're comparing her to the cartoon, she's not quite as accurate, and she mostly got the part because she could do the laugh.
She did do the laugh quite well.
Which they also like. It's not like she's really in the movie that much, so
Fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I see no problem with it.
I did see who else was up for that part that I thought was interesting and I feel bad because I can't remember her name, but you may remember a movie called Spaceballs. The princess.
The Princess Vespa from that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I forget the actress's name off the top of my head, but
she was up for Betty.
Okay.
Which,
I mean, that would have been fun. That could have worked.
I think
Spaceballs was my first pick for my guilty pleasure movie. Not because it's a bad movie, but just guilty based on how many times I've seen it, how many times I could see it. But I didn't want to cop out of the prompts, but it would have been mine. Yeah.
Okay.
The guilt definitely comes from how many times you've watched Spaceballs, not the movie itself.
Oh no, it's a 10. The movie's a 10. I mean, fight me.
If you'd said the animated sequel to Spaceballs,
that is a thing that exists.
Which I think I watched maybe like 10 seconds of it.
I still haven't seen it. Yeah.
I think I watched like a scene.
It's like flash animation.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
It's like, did you make this for Newgrounds? Like, what's happening?
shit, guys, I feel like I don't really need to justify. How
Honestly,
awesome this
I'm
movie
like
is,
looking
'cause
at my notes to like find something that I wrote down that's negative.
I do have 2 negative notes.
Oh,
actually.
I have one. Go ahead. What are yours?
And this goes for all similar sins made in this time period of filmmaking. The fucking song recorded by the B-52s or the
It was
BC-52s.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Their reinterpretation of the Flintstones theme is obnoxious.
Yeah.
And I generally like the B-52s. Not all their stuff, but like generally.
Yeah.
But same thing happens at the end of the Addams Family. In the credits, at least they save it for the fucking credits. The Addams Family, whatever, the Addams Family rap or
Addams
whatever.
Family rap, yeah. No, hey, at least this one didn't end in a rap.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, this was not a bunch of white people rapping, much like Ninja Turtles rap.
I will say, just in terms of learning a lesson in one direction or another with that, in the Ninja Turtles game that came out, the Shredder's Revenge game that came out, there is an original Wu-Tang Clan song
Is there?
on on the soundtrack, and it fucking rules. So at least they learned if we're gonna throw rap into this, it's gonna be fucking good.
They got Wu-Tang. Okay.
Yeah, it was actual like fucking Ghostface Killer, and I forget who else, but
Dirty old bastard.
he's been dead for years.
No, they brought him back.
No, oh god. Just
Okay, yeah, so B-52s, that song, I
it was
could
rough.
not stand. And probably the CGI Dino, because they have moments where he's a puppet, and
the Puppet Dino,
awesome.
Yeah, I like the Puppet Dino better. Yeah. I wish that we had gotten some puppet Sabretooth Tiger that they had there. But no, I think we only see him in CG.
Which, if I recall, for its time, that was like mind-blowing because it had fur.
Yeah.
And fur is notoriously difficult.
That's hard. It's hard to model, yeah.
Which, the fur didn't look bad. It was very obviously CGI. But that's really it. I can't really think of any... I do hate the one joke about charge it, but I feel like that's in character for me.
That's in character for you, and it's also like of the time.
Yes,
I think.
But that's it.
Scott, what was your negative note?
Oh, mine was also going to be about music. Just
okay.
We had to hear like Flintstones song too many times, and then the fucking Sex Pistols cover during the credits. What the fuck was that?
I forgot about that.
I was like, credits were rolling. I like turned to Chelsea. I'm like, I really enjoyed this movie, man. This is great. And then I was like, wait, what's no.
Same thing happens with the Addams Family, where you get through the whole movie, you're like, it's a delight.
Douchebag filmmakers that has to watch all the credits, so I just had to sit there in misery for the whole rest of the time. So that made that's probably the worst thing I can say about the film. I mean, some of the things I'd like to draw attention to. I mean, the mother-in-law's insults to Fred are so filthy.
They're
just
horrible.
Absolutely filthy.
Yeah.
She's just going on this tirade. The only thing he provides is shade.
I know.
my God,
holy shit!
It calls him
I'm not gonna lie,
the
I laughed pretty hard
man
at that
who
one.
invented the excuse.
Read him for filth. Just absolute filth. Good lord.
Oh man, that wow! I had to pause it. And go back. The other thing is, did Zoolander rip off the joke about the house models? Well. What is this? A house for ants?
Oh my god, you're right. They did do it first.
I will say that Zoolander did it better.
Well, Zoolander did everything better. Not accurate, but yeah, they did.
Oh my god.
So I don't know about either of you, but this movie, or either of your picks, This did win a Razzie.
Wait, did it really?
Rosie O'Donnell won a Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress.
Nah, come on.
She won
Yeah.
for that?
She won!
My God.
She won. It was also
Holy
nominated
shit.
for Worst Screenplay and Worst Supporting Actress for Elizabeth Taylor.
Wait, it won for that?
Those are 2 nominations.
Nominations, okay.
Oh,
Oh,
I did have one other negative note about Elizabeth Taylor. Her costume, I'm assuming this is intentional choice, but her costume just looks like they gave her a real costume. She was like, no thanks, I'm not wearing that. And
It
you're like,
does, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
It was very off-putting.
I misspoke, actually. So Rosie O'Donnell won. It also won Worst Screenplay. It was nominated. It won Worst Screenplay. It was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress for Elizabeth Taylor, and it was nominated Worst Remake.
Wow.
So it got a couple of
Wow.
a couple there.
Huh.
Yeah. The Saturn Awards, however, gave it a nominated for Best Costume. So I different people, I guess.
Neat.
I'm
Man.
I'm kind of floored by that.
So I'm looking, and it looks like Gamer was not nominated for any Razzies.
Because no one
Which
could
is-
get through it, Joe.
They just took one look at it and said no. I will note that, again, ironic to the whole Michael Bay related discussion that we had here, the winner of Worst Picture that year was Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah.
And movie that I made passing reference to in our Showgirls episode, All About Steve was nominated for a whole bunch of shit too.
Oh yeah, I think that one.
Sandra Bullock won Worst Actress that year for that movie.
Something I wouldn't say it's a gripe, but it's pretty obvious that Bam Bam is dubbed.
Yeah.
However, he's dubbed by E.G. Daily, who voiced Tommy Pickles.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
She hasn't done a whole lot of live action stuff, but I think she was in the first Pee-wee movie. Once you recognize her voice, it's impossible to miss. I was like, is that Tommy Pickles?
I absolutely love that.
I don't even think that the actor who played Bam Bam spoke English. Not that I guess he needed to, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's far from a perfect film, but I can't believe I can't believe I'm defending it from being Razzied
Right.
and 21%.
I'm not surprised. The Rotten Tomatoes scores are ridiculous, but I'm not surprised that given the Razzies being the Razzies that they nominated Rosie O'Donnell, because there's just like there's a lot of hate for her for whatever reason, and the
Yeah.
Razzies do like their petty hate tiffs.
They really do. It's kind of absurd. We talked a little bit about that regarding Madonna in our last
Yeah.
episode, and yeah, I'm not surprised that that Rosie O'Donnell would be on that list as well.
So yeah, the Flintstones.
I'm also going to add real
sure.
quick that it does appear that Hackers not nominated for sequel Razzie.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I feel like that movie kind of would have slipped by the Razzies.
probably. They did have a lot on their plate that year with Showgirls and It's Pat and Jury Duty.
I think Razzies actually got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Skateboarding Scene, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure that just by the Academy law, they have to keep giving that year after year to Fisher Stevens because of that performance, because no one could possibly top that.
He actually gave out an award that year by holding on to a limousine.
He sketched his way onto the stage and just passed off the Oscar.
Oh my God,
Jesus
he could do
Christ.
he could do Uber Eats like commercials.
He's just so fucking serious when he does it.
Somebody get Fisher Stevens on the phone, please.
He'll do it. Oh my God. So I guess has your opinion changed?
No, I just feel more delighted about
Yeah.
fucking Flintstones.
I mean, I went in with low expectations, so yeah, I'd say it's improved. You know,
Hell yeah.
unlike Gamer, the movie that only provides shade.
Oh, that's horrible.
Terrible.
Jesus. On that note.
Scott, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yes.
Anything at all? Doesn't even have to be you.
Sure, you can check out my cinematography work on my Instagram or my website, both which are Scott Got the Shot, scottgottheshot.com, or Instagram, where I post at least once every 2 years. Pretty low key, but I will have a new film coming out very shortly after Christmas. It's a little 7-minute documentary, and you can check that out there.
What's that called?
It's called The Singing Sorceress.
What's it about?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't.
He just points the camera at it, Jack. What are you talking about?
No, it's
the whole time.
It's a very personal project, actually. I filmed my dad and his lovely wooden sailboat that he's very attached to. So it kind of follows him and the boat up to their cabin in Canada, and just kind of talks a little bit about the boat and talks a little bit about getting old, I guess.
Cool.
I like that.
I remember you telling me about that one.
Hell yeah. I'm going to watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, please do.
Could you film something that won't make me cry? Maybe. Perhaps something with a mannequin's ass.
A butt? a butt?
Perhaps a man in love with an ass. Mannequin ass. Nobody's going to get this joke.
I know. It's literally, this is just for us. It's fine.
What's that? Morgan's in chat?
Oh, Lord. Well, Scott, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for indulging my guilty pleasures.
We owed you.
We truly
really did.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on and giving us something fun here. I apologize for giving everybody a bad time with my movie.
It's okay. I think you did your job, Joe. Well
I
done.
did my job. I'm only here to disappoint. It's fine.
They're not all hackers out there. Okay, it's fine.
That's fair.
You were this year's Daredevil.
I was this year's Daredevil. That's it.
You.
Oh God! Well, thank you everybody for watching or listening with us here today. If you have not already, please rate and review this episode and any of our episodes that you've listened to, wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, GoodPods.
Good pans?
I got. He said OnlyFans, and it broke my brain for a second.
No, we're on Good Pans.
We're on GoodPans too. We're on YouTube. You can check us out there. If you want to follow us on social media, we are on Facebook at DeRazzled Podcast, on Instagram at DeRazzled_podcast, on TikTok at DeRazzled_podcast, and Twitter at DeRazzledPod. If you have suggestions for things you'd like to see us cover, email us at DeRazzledPodcast@gmail.com. You could also suggest merch that you'd like to see in our merch store through that as well.
Such as our Good Pans.
Such as our Good Pants. And and as a reminder, we will be off next week. After that week, there will be a deleted scenes episode. Then we'll be off for another week. Then we will have a very rare thing here. We're going to do our best of 2022, which will be just a kind of a relaxed, easygoing, what we liked that came out this past year,
and what we're excited about for this coming year.
And what we're excited about for this coming year. And then then we'll probably have another week off before that, or after that episode, before we get back into season 2 proper.
Capitalism has kind of ruined us a little bit. We need a breath.
A little bit, yeah. Jack's got a new work schedule that's starting in the new year, so things should regulate a little better. I hope. He's got a 1,000-yard stare on right now. It's a great sign.
I've seen things you people couldn't imagine.
Oh, God, he's become Roy Beatty. We have to go now. Join us next time where we'll be sure to razzle-dazzle. Yeah.